Well, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, our speaker for this 78th commencement exercise of our university is an accomplished medical director, doctor, a physician of no mean caliber. He has been Dr. Milton O.C. Haynes earned his very first degree, which is a bachelor's in biology, summa cum laude, and that is a degree with highest honors, as you know, from Fisk University in 1965. An astute science scholar, since then, he was elected to the Phi Beta Kappa National Academic Honor Society and the Beta Kappa Chi National Scientific Honor Society, and was also listed in the Who's Who in American colleges and universities. Just approximately 4 years after his graduation, he earned his MD degree from Howard University College of Medicine and did his internship and residency in obstetrics and gynecology at the Lennox Hill Hospital in New York City. He has the honor of being the first Black physician to be accepted for specialty training in this field at that hospital. He deserves a round of applause. Significant indeed. Presently, he serves as clinical associate professor of obstetrics and gynecology at New York University School of Medicine, and he is the senior obstetrician gynecologist at the Lennox Hill Hospital in New York. Dr. O.C. Haynes is a member of and has held leadership positions in several state and national professional organizations. Among these are his tenure of service as a president of the New York County Medical Society and also the New York Gynecological Society. He is the recipient of numerous citations and awards, including citations from the City of New York, the Manhattan Borough President, and the Governor of the State of New York for his many contributions to the medical profession. The Network Journal lists him in its medical annual special edition on Black Best Doctors. He is also listed in the Guide to America's Top Obstetrician and Gynecologists, published by the Consumers Research Council of America, as well as in the inaugural edition of Who's Who in Black New York City. Dr. Milton O.C. Haynes is a multi-dimensional professional, one who also enjoys and is skilled in the finer arts of life, those things that make him a finished and a holistic human being, and that keep his humanity alive. A member of the Hanson Place Seventh-day Adventist Church and church elder, he is the associate organist and chairperson of the Department of Music, among other things. Therefore, we can conclude that he could speak on things concerning the body in general. He's a physician. The female body in particular. He's the gynecologist and obstetrician. Academics and scholarship. He's a recipient of degrees and honor society memberships. Religion and holy things. We're told we should take time to be holy. He's a church member and a church elder, and by extension a preacher, as well as someone with a flair for the aesthetics, that is the finer things of life. He's a church organist and a a possessor, we can say, of musical talents. A Barbadian by birth. Dr. Milton Haynes has been married for almost 42 years. So maybe we can add another category. He can be a marriage counselor. Yes. He is married to Mrs. Claudette Haynes, a national of Jamaica. Together they have one child, a daughter Carol, and one granddaughter, Zara. We're very pleased that Claudette is here. And at this time, we would like to recognize her presence, and so we'll ask her just to stand to be recognized. Thank you, Mrs. Haynes. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we feel very honored and privileged this morning to have such an accomplished, experienced, and well-rounded medical professional deliver our commencement address at this 78th graduation exercise of our institution. And we would like to welcome him at this time and pray that not only you graduates, but also all of us assembled here will be blessed, inspired, motivated, and galvanized by what he has to say. So, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the podium Dr. Milton O.C. Haynes.
Dr. Eugene Daniel, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, University of the Southern Caribbean. Dr. Trevor Gardner, President of the University of the Southern Caribbean, and Dr. Patricia Gardner. I should also mention Mrs. Carol Daniel. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, members from the University Board of Directors, University Vice Presidents and Directors, faculty, staff, and alumni, graduates, members of the media, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor and a privilege for me to have been invited to be your commencement speaker today. And to thank you, Dr. McCarroll, for your very gracious introduction. Ever since I received this invitation, I kept asking myself, why me? Why me? Why me? And I only found out a few minutes ago. You see, there are two sets of twins and one set of triplets in your class, and therefore you need to have an obstetrician around. Finally, I've gotten the answer as to why I was invited to speak to you today. On a more serious note, this institution has been a part of my life, so to speak, from early childhood. Several of my uncles are graduates of this university. One of my uncles particularly, Dr. M. Alfred Haynes, has been a mentor and a motivator and has inspired me throughout my medical career. He has reached the peak of his profession. In fact, a couple of years ago, he was inducted into the Society of Scholars at the Johns Hopkins University. And just exactly 1 month ago, on April 15th, I traveled to Nashville, Tennessee, where the Meharry Medical College established the M. Alfred Haynes Institute for Social Equity in recognition of the great work that he has done not only nationally but internationally in healthcare and in improving the health of peoples throughout the world. And he got his foundation. His roots are right here on this campus. Several of your distinguished faculty members and university presidents are individuals with whom I have very close relationships. In fact, there is a building on this campus, the Archbold Fine Arts Building, I think it is. Pastor Archbold, and he has done very much for this institution, was a friend of the family. And shortly after my younger brother, was born, he was visiting our home. And he fell in love with this little baby and requested that he be named after him. And so my brother, who is also a physician, is Dr. Vincent A. Haynes, and the A is for Archbold. So whenever I speak to my brother, again, there is that link with the University of the Southern Caribbean. I attend the Handsome Place Seventh-day Adventist Church. That church was founded by people who dreamt the impossible. They were graduates of this institution. It was a small group of CUC, CTC graduates who in 1958 established the Handsome Place Seventh-day Adventist Church. The majority of the charter members of that church were graduates of this institution. In 2008, I had the opportunity to chair the 50th anniversary committee to celebrate 50 years of the establishment of this church. And one of the things we did was to publish a book outlining the origins and the dynamic history of this church, how Caribbean people, many from this institution, came to North America and the impact that they had on our church. And this book was published by a graduate of this institution, Dr. Glenn O. Phillips, an eminent historian and a professor at Morgan State University. And so you can see the linkage that I have had with this great institution. And so at this time, as a small token of appreciation for the impact that this institution has had on me personally and on so many other people around the globe, I would like to ask Doctors Daniel and Dr. Gardner to join me here as I present to them a copy, signed copy by the author, Dr. Phillips, an alumnus of this institution, of Singing in a Strange Land, the history of the Handsome Place Seventh-day Adventist Church. Dr. Daniel. Well, class of 2011, congratulations. You've made it. 4 years of study and hard work, coupled with the financial sacrifices of your parents and others, have brought you to this point in time where you can stand up and say with both joy and pride, I am a graduate of the University of the Southern Caribbean. Now, I was looking through your program and I noticed that a few of you are graduating summa cum laude. Some of you are graduating magna cum laude. Some of you are graduating cum laude. And a large number of you are graduating thank you, Lordy. However, regardless of what Laude you graduated, I know that you are all thankful to our God and our Lord for what He has done in your life and for making it possible for you to be a graduate today from this institution, and how He has guided you and made it possible for you to navigate this academic path. Today, as you grasp your degrees in hand and prepare to walk away from the buildings and the 384 acres of land and flora in this beautiful Maracas Valley, I hope that you will pause, look back, and ponder the fact that today is not the end, but the beginning, a commencement of a brave new world of experiences and challenges. I know that you're all very happy and all very excited. You are surrounded by loving family and friends. You are anxious to celebrate your success. However, I have traveled from New York to Trinidad to serve you with an international arrest warrant. An international arrest warrant. And if you think I'm kidding about this, I brought along some handcuffs. This warrant has a very simple request on it. It says, wanted, your mind. Wanted, your mind. Please note that it does not say wanted your brain. What the world community wants is your mind. You see, everyone has a brain. And the brain is essentially the same in each one of you. It's a tangible, four-lobed, soft mass of tissue that is encased in a hard bone, the cranium, and weighs about 3 pounds. There are 300 billion neurons in the brain, which is like a master computer that controls every aspect of our lives. The mind, however, is not matter and is not tangible. It is thought, perception, reason, will, emotion. It is intellect and intellectual power. It is a private world that we enjoy within ourselves. Unlike the brain, which is confined by space and protected from external forces, the mind is exposed to all the forces of nature and our environment. And the mind is not static. In fact, it is very elastic. Tryon Edwards, the 19th century theologian, noted that, and I quote, "There's nothing so elastic as the human mind. Like imprisoned steam, the more it is pressured, the more it rises to resist the pressure. The more we are obligated to do, the more we are able to accomplish." Let me repeat that. The more we are obligated to do, the more we are able to accomplish. During your sojourn here at USC, the faculty has provided you with tools to master and utilize facts and figures, processes and concepts in a variety of academic areas. That fund of knowledge is safely stored in your brain. You have read your textbooks, you have passed your exams, and will soon be able to add a few letters behind your name. Now, your soon-to-be alma mater, your community, Trinidad and Tobago, the nations of the Caribbean, and the world want and need your mind. How will you use your mind? In Eastern wisdom, the mind is noted to be a powerful and a mysterious force that can make the best of the worst and the worst of the best. How will you use your mind? Will you use your mind to work to make the best of the worst? Will you use your mind to make the best of the world and to contribute the best to the world? I said that I brought you an arrest warrant. But my arrest warrant comes with one simple stipulation. You will be given unrestricted freedom to walk away from this campus, provided that you agree to commit to any one of the following. And there are three things. You can choose whichever one. One, you can make a contribution to the body of knowledge within your area of academic interest. You can make a contribution towards solving some of the troubling issues in our world. Or you can encourage, affirm, and make at least one person happy each day from this day forward. Those are your choices. Sumasaburo Magiguchi, who is a Buddhist philosopher and educator, wrote the following: "The essence of education is not to transfer knowledge. It is to guide the learning process, to put responsibility for study into the student's own hands. It is not the piecemeal merchandising of information. It is the bestowal of keys that allow people to unlock the vault of knowledge on their own. It does not consist of pilfering the intellectual property amassed by others through no additional effort of one's own. It would rather place people on their own path to discovery and invention." Let me repeat that last sentence. It does not consist of pilfering the intellectual property amassed by others through no additional effort of one's own. It would rather place people on their own path of discovery and invention. I have no doubt that the faculties of the schools here today have given you the appropriate tools and have placed each one of you on your own path to discovery and invention. Will you now allow your mind to expand and be creative, and yes, to dream the impossible? Would you? For thousands of years, separating babies that were joined at the head and that would survive was an impossible surgical exercise. But a young black Adventist surgeon, Dr. Benjamin Carson, came along and dared to dream the impossible. And in 1987, successfully separated the Binder Siamese twins from Germany in an operation that lasted 22 hours. The procedures and surgical techniques that he developed for this and other neurosurgical operations are monumental contributions that he has made to the body of knowledge in his specialty. I am indeed delighted that this university is making research an integral part of its academic life, is publishing a journal of research, and has appointed Dr. Noel Brathwaite, and may I add, a fellow Barbadian, to provide leadership in this area. It is universally recognized in academic circles that research is a critical component in determining the quality and the stature of a university. Some of you may be going on to graduate school here, elsewhere in the Caribbean, or overseas. I would encourage you to use your mind to make some contribution to the body of knowledge within your area of academic interest. We live in a world today that is still ravaged by poverty and disease. In spite of the advances of science and technology, the basic necessities of life and living are still lacking in many parts of the world. 30 years ago, on April 13, 1981, a manned space shuttle, Columbia, orbited the Earth 37 times and returned to Earth on April 15, 1981. On July 20, 1969, the world listened as Neil Armstrong uttered these words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," as he became the first man to walk on the moon. The Columbia shuttle and Apollo mission both began as small ideas in a person's mind. Class of 2011, what will be your one small step for the men and women, boys and girls of Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Grenada, St. Lucia, the Caribbean, or the world? How will you use your mind to enhance and enrich the quality of life for the peoples of the Caribbean? The Caribbean and the world are in need of innovative and creative ideas and new paradigms to address the socio-economic, educational, political, and healthcare needs and problems of the peoples of the African diaspora. Are you prepared to make a meaningful contribution to the discourse and to the solution? Martin Luther Jr. King had a dream on April 28, 1963, that his 4 children would one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And even though his dream has not been translated into full actuality, we can still find solace in the historical fact that in 2008, enough people in the United States were more moved by the content of his character and the intellect than by his color, and elected a black man, Barack Obama, to be president of the United States. Dr. King used his mind to make a monumental contribution towards finding a solution for racial and socio-economic issues that continue to confront people of color throughout the world. As you walk away from this campus today, I will urge you to look around and find some area to which you can direct your mind and make a contribution, however small, towards solving at least one of the troubling issues that negatively impact the lives and daily living of our brothers and sisters. Throughout the Caribbean, there are numerous sociological, educational, political, socio-economic, religious, and ethical issues that are begging for creative thought and analysis. There are many fertile areas that are yearning for young, bright minds to devote in-depth study and research. If properly done, the results should bring about the changes that would have a lasting impact on the quality of life of the Caribbean people and people around the world. Now, I mentioned Dr. Ben Carson, I mentioned Martin Luther King, I mentioned President Obama, and I know there's somebody in the audience who is saying, Dr. Haynes, you only mention men. You have not mentioned any women. Well, before I start talking about women, let me give you some bona fides. After leaving Harrison College in Barbados, I taught at Queen's College, the leading girls' school on the island, where some of the bright girls received their secondary education. I am married to a bright, articulate Jamaican lady for about 42 years. I have one daughter and one granddaughter who at the age of 9 is teaching me things that I didn't know. For 42 years as an obstetrician gynecologist, I have been taking care of the needs exclusively of women and articulating their causes and concerns. So, with that background, I think I can say with a great measure of confidence that there is nothing that a man can do that a woman cannot do better. Yes, the mind of women often baffles analysis and comprehension by men. However, let it be fully and clearly said and understood that women are also included in my arrest warrant and in my stipulation. There's a young black woman from Jamaica by the name of Dr. Patricia Smith. And she is credited with being the first individual in the world to discover a new way to repair damaged nerves. Her original work, which was done at Harvard University and which she is continuing in Canada, led to the discovery of the SOCS3 molecule, which blocks the body's ability to repair damaged nerves. In the absence of SOCS3, the damaged nerves were able to regenerate themselves in an adult. And so she's now working at ways to functionally repair damaged nerves following spinal cord and brain injury. This black, young Caribbean woman is making a monumental contribution through research to the fund of knowledge in her professional area. Now, you should also note that before there was a Martin Luther King Jr., there was a Rosa Parks, a woman with a mind of steel who refused to give up her seat in the front of the bus and take a seat in the back. Now, to all you women here, and you men too, is your mindset such that you will be willing to sacrifice your rights, privileges, God-given talents, and your mind on the altar of racial or social prejudice, social, economic, expediency or even political or religious bigotry. The Caribbean and the world also needs the minds of women who can be CEOs, presidents of organizations, presidents of universities, presidents and prime ministers of countries, and yes, ordained pastors too. I would say that women can also dream the impossible. You too, Dr. Daniels, can be president of the Caribbean Union. You too, President Neil Ted Wilson, can be, one day you will be, president of the General Conference. And I tell you, after listening to the excellent baccalaureate address yesterday by Pastor Claudette Andrews, there's no doubt in my mind that that can be a possibility. Let me tell you a story that I find very heartwarming. There's a story of two men, both seriously ill, who occupied the same hospital room. One man was allowed to sit up in his bed for an hour each afternoon to help drain the fluid from his lungs. His bed was next to the room's only window. The other man had to spend his time flat on his back. The two men talked for hours on end. They spoke of their wives and families, their homes, their jobs, their involvement in the military service, and where they had been on vacation. Every afternoon, when the man in the bed by the window would sit up, he would pass the time describing to his roommate all the things he could see outside the window. The man in the other bed began to live for those 1 hour periods where his world would be broadened and enlivened by all the activities and color of the outside world. The window overlooked a park with a lovely lake. Ducks and swans played on the water while children sailed their model boats. Young lovers walked arm in arm amidst flowers of every color of the rainbow. Grand old trees graced the landscape, and a fine view of the city skyline could be seen in the distance. As the man by the window described all this in exquisite detail, the man on the other side of the room would close his eyes and imagine the picturesque scene. One warm afternoon, the man by the window described a parade passing by. Although the other man could not hear the band, he could see it in his mind's eye as the gentleman by the window portrayed with descriptive words. Days and weeks passed by, and one morning, the day nurse arrived to bring water to give them their daily bath, only to find the lifeless body of the man by the window, who had died peacefully in his sleep. She was saddened, of course, and called the hospital attendants to take the body away. As soon as it seemed appropriate, the other man asked if he could be moved next to the window. The nurse, of course, was happy to make the switch, and after making sure that he was comfortable, she left him alone. Slowly, painfully, he propped himself up on one elbow to take his first look at the outside world. Finally, he would have the joy of seeing it all for himself. He strained and slowly turned to look out the window beside the bed, and it faced a blank wall. The man asked the nurse what would have compelled his deceased roommate to describe such wonderful things outside this window. The nurse replied that the man was blind and could not even see. Perhaps, she said, he just wanted to encourage you. This blind man had a brain, a supercomputer in his head, but still was unable to see. It was his mind that made it possible for him to see the impossible. And in doing so, it brought joy, happiness, and encouragement to his sick roommate. You may not be a great researcher. You may not have the knack for solving problems. However, each one of you can, at a minimum, bring joy, happiness, encouragement, and or affirmation to at least one person with whom you may come in contact. There's an old hymn that I enjoyed singing as a youngster. Unfortunately, it's no longer in our new church hymnal, but the words of that hymn are still relevant today. If any little word of mine may make a dark life brighter, if any little song of mine may make a sad heart lighter, God help me speak the helping word and sweeten it with singing, and drop it in some lonely vale to set the echoes ringing. If any little love of mine may make a hard life sweeter, if any little care of mine may make our friends the fleeter, God help me speak the helping word and sweeten it with singing, and drop it in some lonely vale to make the echoes ringing. Class of 2011, your university, your family and friends, your community, your country, and your world all need your mind, your thoughts, your ideas, your creativity, your innovation. You too can be a Dr. Benjamin Carson. You too can be a Dr. Martin Luther King. You too can be a President Obama. You too can be a Dr. Patricia Smith. You too can be a Rosa Parks. But even if you do not follow in the footsteps of any of the aforementioned, you can still be like the blind man in the hospital bed, and you can still use your mind to bring joy, happiness, encouragement to someone who needs it. You too would also be counted among those who have contributed to the betterment of our world. That little word, that little song, that little love, that little care can make a big difference in our world. I conclude with the immortal words of Mahatma Gandhi. Keep your thoughts positive, because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive, because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive, because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive, because your habits become your values. Keep your values positive, because your values become your destiny. Class of 2011, it is how you use your mind and your thoughts that will determine your destiny and determine your path to the end after you have left the hallowed academic corridors of this university. I urge and exhort you to respond to my arrest and also to my stipulation. Make a contribution to the body of knowledge. Let the creative juices of your mind flow. 2, commit yourself to making a contribution towards making this world in which we live a better place. Have a purpose in life, and have a purpose for living. And 3, encourage, affirm, and help at least one person each day. Allow your mind to explore new ways of poking holes in the darkness and be a light to the Caribbean and to the world at large. You know, as a young boy in Barbados, I was very impressed when some of my friends came to school on this campus and returned home on vacation after one semester speaking like a Trinidadian, speaking with a Trinidadian accent. Today, as one who has advanced in age, I would be even much more and more greatly impressed by the fact that individuals who attend this university and who will graduate and leave will leave with changed minds. Minds that are creative and innovative, minds that are not afraid of the black hole of the unknown, minds that can still build pyramids, minds that create joy and happiness, minds that, like Napoleon, consider the word impossible to be the adjective of fools. Dream the impossible. Hold fast to your dreams and never allow the enemy of self-doubt to destroy them. But above all, ladies and gentlemen, graduates, class of 2011, surrender your mind to the mind of God. If you do, success will be inevitable. Again, class of 2011, congratulations. You are free to go. You're no longer under arrest. May God continue to bless you.